Welcome to the Mid-Penn Bank Podcast, hosted by President and CEO Rory Retrieve. In this episode, Rory is joined by Jen Pensinger, Executive Director of the PA Breast Cancer Coalition. Here's the conversation.
All right. Do you know how to say his last name?
You know, he didn't say it to me. Is it Lieber? L-E-B-E-R?
It's either Leber or Lieber.
I'm
Not
sure.
All right. Well, let's play it for Jen and see what she thinks. So this is you want to start? So this is the music that we hired we engaged. We engaged a young man named Ethan, either Leber or Lieber, and he just completed his second year at Berklee School of Music in Boston.
Very nice.
Yeah.
You did a nice job. I like it.
So he created this on his own.
Very nice.
A little direction from us.
Nice.
I think we have some tweaks to do to it.
Just a little editing and cleaning up, yes.
I like that it's upbeat.
Yeah, that's what we're
nice,
trying to keep it upbeat. And we couldn't use anything that was copyrighted by someone else. So.
Yep.
All right, we're good. Cut it off. Good job, Ethan. So, Scott, you're going to get him to tighten up a couple things, and then it'll be our official music.
It will be, yeah. He's working on it right now.
Good. Jen, welcome.
Thank you.
Jen
Thank you so much.
Pensinger from Pennsylvania Breast Cancer Coalition. So I think the Breast Cancer Coalition has been around since when?
1993.
93. Mm-hmm. Now, when did you join?
In 2002.
Okay. So about 9 years into their
9 years
into the mission. And what were you doing prior to?
So before that, I was in college, and then I actually worked for about 9 months for the National MS Society here in Harrisburg. Mm-hmm.
So was your intention always to go into the nonprofit world?
Yeah, I had done a little bit. Did internships for political science. I did internships and worked political campaigns, worked for a nonprofit, worked for actually a couple chamber events, and kind of thought I really liked the nonprofit world. So stuck with nonprofit.
And when you joined Pennsylvania Breast Cancer Coalition, how big was the organization at that time?
So at that time, there was a staff, I think, of 5 of us at that point. So, I mean, we haven't grown that much since then. There's still only 10. Mm-hmm. We've doubled we've doubled in size, but there was only 5 of us, and we were in a little basement office in the old Donnerker's building in Ephrata. So,
Donneker. All right. And where are you guys now?
We are in Lebanon, off of 72.
So why? So both of those were in Lebanon County. Why?
So Pat really wanted us to be kind of in a local community area. So she's from the Philly area, worked in Harrisburg at the time, but wanted us, we're really looking for kind of a place that was smaller. And actually at the time, Donnerker's, when I started, gave us rent for free.
Was an effort.
Yeah, that was an effort. So Lancaster County. That they gave us the office space for free at that point. So.
And you're now in Lebanon County, and are you in an office building there? Or?
So we bought our own building.
Oh,
we're in Lebanon County. So we're in just a smaller building, right next to the Fairview Golf Course. Mm-hmm. So we have, like 5-6 offices and some communal rooms, and so we're a nice little space for us. That's our own. So
take me back to 1993. Mm-hmm. So what was the impetus behind getting the Pennsylvania Breast Cancer Coalition established?
So Pat Halpin Murphy, our president and founder.
Great woman.
Yeah, amazing woman.
Yeah.
Was diagnosed with breast cancer and had kind of said to herself, if she got through that, wanted to do something to give back. Mm-hmm. So she started the organization to improve access for screening and early detection and to help women all across Pennsylvania, and has been a force since then.
So to give women access to early detection and screening. So did she envision it as raise money and then use that money to help women get, screenings?
So no. So her main goal and her background was in, working with the legislature and getting, working at that level. So her main goal was always making sure that all women across the Commonwealth had access to the care that they needed. So it started with ensuring that women 40 and over could get access to a mammogram. And then it became, making sure that women who needed reconstruction could get reconstruction for breast cancer, and they could stay in the hospital more than 24 hours to do that. So her main, the reason I think the organization is so successful and is different from other organizations is that our main goal, while supporting women at a local level, has been to make kind of global legislative changes.
No, I know. I think that's the very unique thing about it.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the kind of your three-pronged approach. But so did Pat, before she had breast cancer, was she doing advocacy type work?
She was. So she worked for Governor Casey at the time when she was diagnosed. So the governor and the first lady were very instrumental in starting the coalition. And then she continued on working as she worked for the teachers union as a lobbyist and was a government relations director there. So she knew the ins and outs of legislation. And since the organization has started, the first lady has been our honorary chair.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I saw her when I gave the speech in 2018.
Yeah.
The former first lady was on the dais, and her son gave a speech that day, and her daughter-in-law was there that day. And yeah, I could tell the Casey family is very important to PBCC.
They were. And even Senator Casey, when he was a senator, was extremely helpful in making sure that women, have the access to early detection, to screenings, to the things that they need.
So in the very beginning of it, was it more of a lobbying intention or advocacy? And
we've always had the mission to help women. I mean, our Friends Like Me care packages was in place before I even started the organization. Now, we didn't send the number that we're sending now, but it was always the goal to have a patient advocate. And Dolores has been there for almost the full 30 years as our patient advocate, helping women throughout the process. So I think it was but Pat's very good. We always say, we're advocating for women at a local level, like one-on-one through Dolores. But once we're starting to get the calls a lot and seeing this is a bigger issue than just one person.
Right.
She's been very good at saying something needs to change bigger than just one person.
So you've had some real legislative wins, particularly over the last few years.
We have, yeah.
So let's talk about some of those. So what was the first big legislative win?
So I think the first big legislative win was to expand the mammogram age to age 40. And Pat got that covered, and to basically say that mammograms would be available at no cost to women. I mean, that came along with the Affordable Care Act 25 years later, but in Pennsylvania, we had been doing it fairly early. And then, like I said, we had the legislation for no cost reconstruction to make sure that was covered for women.
So when did that occur?
That was in 97, I believe. Yeah. And we had, insurers saying, well, that's purely cosmetic. Women don't need that. Yeah. So that happened very early, and we've done everything then. Since then, we had Governor Tom Wolf clarified that a mammogram is a mammogram. So women were able to get 3D mammograms at no cost, which would be, and that was a huge thing because they were getting billed when they shouldn't have been. So we really have been thrilled to continue all of the legislation over these years.
And what about, I know there was a significant piece of legislation maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
There was Act 1 of 2023, which was introduced by Senator Kim Ward. Yeah. And then it went all through the Senate, was championed through the House by Speaker Joanna McClinton. And then it was the first piece of legislation that Governor Shapiro signed as governor. So that covers no cost MRI supplemental screenings for women at high risk for breast cancer here in Pennsylvania, insured under state law.
So how do women know about that though?
So that we take a lot of time to educate women and make sure that they're aware. Unfortunately, it only covers about 25% of all the women in Pennsylvania because it's only women insured under PA law. So we're working to that to make sure women know if they're covered or if they're not, what other resources might be out there for them.
And how many cases of breast cancer are diagnosed a year in Pennsylvania?
A little over 14,000.
Wow. And nationwide, how many is it?
I don't have the nationwide number, but
doing
it's
research
huge.
back in 2018. I thought it was like 40 or so, maybe 44,000.
So,
but if there's 14,000 cases
Yeah.
in Pennsylvania, is Pennsylvania one of the more harder hit states? Or
I'm not sure, quite honestly. I'm not sure.
So what about right before the Kim Ward and Joanna Clinton? Wasn't there another senator that it was kind of his like last act, and then he retired?
So Senator Bob Mensch was a champion for us. He did the Dense Breast Notification Act to let women know if, before, radiologists know your women's breast density level. It's on that. But if the woman doesn't know, they don't know that they're at a higher risk for breast cancer by having that. So Senator Mensch was just instrumental in doing a lot of key pieces of legislation like that.
Now, did Pat kind of fire him up, or did he, on his own get there?
He had a constituent.
I think Pat's pretty convincing. No?
Pat's extremely convincing. Pat's and tenacious.
Yeah.
Extremely convincing. So he had a constituent who called and said, I was diagnosed on a mammogram a year at stage 3, a year after I had a completely clean mammogram, and I don't know why. And when I talked to my radiologist, I said, well, it's hard for us to see your mammogram because of your breast density. And she's like, well, why didn't anybody tell me this? Because I could have had additional screenings. So she was obviously righteously upset and came to him and said something needs to be done. And then he reached out to Pat as the expert to say, what do you know about this? And so Pat, said, yes, this is an issue, and yes, we should be doing something. So he led the charge with it.
That's great.
Yeah.
So out of all the things that you guys have done over the 32 years?
32 years.
Is that advocacy the most important thing? Or, the friends like me, is that what you call them? Those, I call them care package.
Yep.
I've heard really good things from recipients of that.
So the advocacy is huge. Don't get me wrong, but the care packages really, they're a Friends Like Me care package that we send to women who are newly diagnosed or are diagnosed at a stage 4 metastatic stage. So we have 2 slightly different packages, and that they're personalized. We have volunteers who come in once a week and personalize them. We have fabulous volunteers who put them all together, like the team at Mid-Penn Bank and some volunteers, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. So we have people who put those together, and then they're individually personalized each week for that woman's specific situation. So if she has young children, if she has a husband or a caregiver at home, whatever the situation, if she's going through chemo, radiation.
So the contents of the package might change.
Are different depending
package to package.
Yeah, for each woman. And we just hear, the overwhelming response that we get from women are that it made me feel like I was not alone.
Yeah. Well, and I would imagine, like in the days, I don't know how long it takes for you guys to get the package to them after their diagnosis, but in that first month after that diagnosis, I imagine it's very lonely. And you kind of feel like you're on your own. And even though you might have support structure from your family and immediate friends, getting the support of an organization like the Pennsylvania Breast Cancer Coalition has got to be like life-changing.
I would hope so. I mean, and we put in there Dolores' information. And so they know, if they need the support of a patient advocate, if they have any questions, here's who they can call. And we have a survey form in there. And one of the questions we say is, would you like our patient advocate to reach out to you
so
at a certain time?
Dolores.
That would be Dolores. Yeah. And so she gets a lot of calls, and she said, sometimes I call and they'll say, you said you wanted me to reach out. And they said, well, yeah, I just wanted somebody to kind of to talk to.
Right.
And so she goes over that. And there's been times that we've had them, if they needed to talk to someone with, more in depth, that we have fabulous board members who are survivors themselves who have been willing to reach out to women and kind of talk to them about the situation.
So Dolores must be a pretty good resource.
Dolores is amazing.
Yeah.
Dolores is amazing.
Now, how long has she been with the organization?
Longer than me. So over 30 years at this point. Yeah.
So you were with the MS Society before? I'm not asking you to compare the two, but is this a little more aligned with?
So this organization is extremely small but mighty, and we're a very close team,
Yeah,
and everybody has, the passion, because we're doing it to help women across the state, and we just have a great team who is really willing to step up and do whatever they need to do.
And in addition to the advocacy and what you did with Senator Mensch, what you've done with Senator Ward, and before that, back in the 90s and early 2000s, and beyond the what I call care packages.
Yep.
There's also you guys significantly fund research.
We do. We've given over $6.1 million to breast cancer researchers right here in Pennsylvania. I mean, Pennsylvania is extremely blessed that we have spectacular research institutions right here, including, we have the Penn Medicine in Philly. We have Fox Chase Cancer Center in Philly, Thomas Jefferson down there. We have Penn State Hershey right here in central Pennsylvania, UPMC out in Pittsburgh, and there's actually a bunch of other ones. So we are very blessed that we have people right here in the state who are doing top-notch research.
Now, each of those hospitals that you just mentioned, do they all have breast cancer research centers? Like
most of them,
like
all
Bosser?
Of those do. Yeah, most of them do. Yeah. So Penn State, they all of them have some type of research component to them that they do. And they're everything from, we just funded a grant in Pittsburgh that was, using AI to assist in reading mammograms to see if it can pinpoint, breast cancer at an earlier stage than a radiologist. So there's some really up and coming technology that is being looked at. And we have done everything from that to looking at stage, earlier detecting breast cancer metastases in bone. So the research we fund is really broad. Our only component is you have to be in Pennsylvania, and it has to be related to breast cancer.
And do you think all those researchers, are they like sharing information with each other? Or is that not?
I would like to think so. I don't know how proprietary a lot of the stuff is.
Yeah.
A lot of the ones we fund, they have to be nonprofits. So it's not a pharmaceutical or anything like that, which I think are much more, patent and profit. Yes. But so a lot of these researchers, I do think are, looking to advance the science. And a lot of them go to the different, conferences and things to discuss with their colleagues what they're doing and have, collaborators on the grants to really see what can we do to do best research.
I know that those dollars, $6.1 million and going has to have been very meaningful. I don't know when the first time you wrote a check was or the last time, but
we started giving grants in 97.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I remember the first year that we gave Bosser Center a little bit of money from the golf tournament. It was like small. Yeah. But they were so thankful. Yep. And they got together with us and they told us how they're going to use it. And then we upped it a little bit the next year. And we met with Susan Domchek, who I know you know, and Payal Shah, who I also know you know. And they were explaining that it's not just the amount that you give them. It's how much that helps them not have to spend their time writing grants or doing work that benefits the hospital. It gives them the opportunity to spend more time researching, trying to find a cure.
Yep.
And these aren't like Dr. Shaw. I don't think she's the type of person she shouldn't care about living in the lap of luxury or anything. She wants to find a cure.
Yep.
And that's her life's work.
Yeah, no, these researchers, they're so passionate. They're some of the best conversations that we have all year. No offense to all you guys. But going and talking to the researchers and hearing what they're doing and, just saying, this could be the next step and being so committed to the science of it. And right now it's a very weird, interesting, challenging time to be in that research field because things are being cut and there's a lot of uncertainty and they just don't know if that funding will continue. So for us to be able to say to them, we're committed to doing 5 $100,000 research grants each year. So we're committed for $500,000 from here on out.
Wow, that's good.
So we want to make sure that we're giving out those grants to those who are doing the work.
And where do you guys get the money?
So we get the money from a few different sources. Some are the fabulous community events like the Mid-Penn Celebrity Golf Tournament. We also get money from the wonderful taxpayers of Pennsylvania through their making donations when they renew their driver's license or vehicle registrations. It's a $5 donation, but it literally adds up to about $100,000 a quarter. So it helps us give that money away.
So when they check a box on their license renewal, and does that go in the one pot that the state then
distributes that to us?
Yeah.
Yep. So they select us, and then all of that money goes right to us, and then we send it all out right to researchers.
Wow.
So
that's great. So do you get a slice, you apply for a slice of that, or?
So that is through, again, federal legislation. Senator Bob Mensch was one of his legislations before he left, added us on as a line item in there. So they made that change legislatively, and now we're in there as an option.
I think I'm renewing my license this year.
Oh, cool. Give us $5 now.
I don't know that I've ever done that before, but I will this year. No. Yeah. So your budget per year, you intend to give 5 $100,000 research grants away to one of the. So I assume someone at Penn, someone at Jefferson, someone at Penn State.
We have a peer review committee of researchers and survivors and advocates from across Pennsylvania, and actually we have some who actually might have received a grant from us before, but now might be in a different state. So we have a great review committee, and it's all basically peer reviewed. So this year we got the largest number. We're in that process right now. And we got the largest number of applications we've ever had, which is over 35 applications. Wow. And so the review committee just got their assignments, and they'll be reviewing those grants. And then we put all the scoring together, and the top 5 get the grants.
Wow. That's gotta be a tough call.
Luckily I don't have to make it. So there's it's all independently reviewed.
So where did you come from? Like, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Reading, Pennsylvania.
Did you?
Yeah. Yep. So,
and how long have you been in the Harrisburg area?
So let's see, about 15 years now. 15 years. My husband and I bought a house in Palmyra and have been there ever since.
And do you see yourself staying here?
Yeah, I don't see us going back. My husband and I have settlement on a new house tomorrow.
Oh, good.
And so we wanted to we have 2 little girls. So part of my commitment to finding a cure now, so our daughters don't have to. And so we wanted to keep them in Palmyra School District. So we're staying in Palmyra.
And how old are the girls?
So 11 and 9.
Wow.
11 and 9. Yep.
They're fun times. Scott, you remember that, don't you?
I sure do, yeah.
His daughter's, what year?
She's going to be a senior. She's 21.
Oh, my goodness. Well, and your girls are all grown.
Yeah, the last one is 20.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you remember her.
I remember meeting, when she was
used to sing at the events. Yep. Yeah, she was tiny then. Yep. So she finished up her second year of college. She's got 2 more.
Okay.
Just turned 20. Just got done with a whirlwind tour of Asia.
Love that.
Yeah. By herself most of the time.
Wow. That's brave and ambitious.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do that.
I don't think I could have at 20.
No. I don't know if I could do it now.
Yeah. I don't know that I could do it now either, but I know I couldn't have done it at 20. I'm not sure that I would even thought about doing it at 20, but she loves her travel and she loves seeing different cultures and, learning what makes other countries tick. And I think she's been to 20 different countries.
That's amazing.
She's 20.
That's
She's
amazing.
Been to 20 different countries.
I love that.
I think I've been to 12.
I was going to say I've not been to nearly that many. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah. So that's her whole, existence is about doing stuff like that, but it's kind of cool. So, the advocacy is huge. The care packages are huge.
Yep.
The $6.1 million is huge.
Yep.
So what's kind of next? Like, is it you just keep pushing the?
So I think we just keep pushing and looking to see where the need is. And that's what we do. I mean, we also do a statewide breast cancer conference. We have a traveling photo exhibit that goes to 6 different counties a year.
Tell me about that photo exhibit.
So that it's called 67 Women, 67 Counties Facing Breast Cancer in Pennsylvania. And we actually have at least one man in it now, too, who is a breast cancer survivor. And that has been in existence since 1995. We've gotten to 65 of the 67 counties. So our goal is to get to all 67. And it features at least one woman from every county who's been touched with breast cancer, along with their photo and the quotes. So our goal is, again, our main mission is to let women know that they're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
So we take it all across the state. We were just up in Cameron County at the Emporium Senior Center to let them know, there's resources. Again, we can get you a free mammogram if you need a mammogram. If you're not being screened, we want to encourage you to be screened. And then we also have local survivors come and share their stories. Again, to put a face to breast cancer. Because like Pat likes to say, when the exhibit started in 95, breast cancer wasn't always something that women talked about. It might have been something that was whispered in a hallway.
Right.
And she wanted to make sure that women can be comfortable saying, I have breast cancer. This is what I'm going through. And I got through it, and you will too.
So when you do that traveling exhibit, is it always at a place like that senior center, or?
It has been from everything from malls to hospitals to senior centers to colleges to, we pretty much take it anywhere that is open to the public and has enough space.
Did the NFL's pickup of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, did that help organizations like Pennsylvania Breast Cancer Coalition?
I think every little bit helps. I mean, there's pushback that's saying, I'm past the pink. I don't need to be any more pink. But, I think anytime that women can be aware that, I'm over 40, I should be scheduling a mammogram yearly. That's helpful. And if it takes that pop of pink at a football game for someone to be like, oh yeah, I guess I should have scheduled that. And that's, for me, I think that's a good thing.
So do you think that when women in Pennsylvania turn 40, what percentage do you think are getting that first mammogram?
Lower than it should be,
really?
I believe. Yeah. I don't know the exact, I at one point didn't know this. I know that it dropped drastically during COVID times of women getting screened.
Right.
It's picking back up, but I still don't think we're at that
So do you guys have a target? I mean, it would be to think that
100% would be the target.
Right,
I think we're probably, it's probably closer to 60 or 70%, which again is still good. But, yearly screenings are the best if you can't. Every 18 months to years, but yearly is ideal.
So your recommendation, the organization's recommendation is at 40.
Yep.
And then every year or every 18 months or?
So our main recommendation is at 40 and then every year after 40, unless you are at a high risk for breast cancer. So if you have a family history, a genetic component, if you've had any type of breast radiation as a child, if you have any type of high risk factor, you should talk to your doctor, and you should be probably screened earlier for that initial screening. But then after that, 40 and up.
So after the initial care package, so someone gets diagnosed, you give them the care package. And they might talk to Dolores, and they might get some recommendations on where to go and who to talk to and how to pay for things. What's the connection with the organization after that?
So some of our survivors go on to do, community events. They go on to do drives for more items for care packages. Sometimes we don't have any connection with them, that they're moving on with their lives and they want that. We have a lot of volunteers that come out of women who got care packages from us. So it really varies. And obviously we've never been an organization that's tried to be like overly pushy. We want, whatever you want, we're here to help you with what you need. So
does that tend to be more, you finding the way to stay in touch with them, or do you think that most of them are just so appreciative of the time that they kind of stay involved?
So I think a lot of them stay involved and stay. We do have a bi-weekly newsletter that goes out. And so we ask, when they get the care package, if they want to sign up for that, there's an option there. And we do quarterly newsletters. So we do kind of give an option that we're staying in touch, but they don't necessarily have to. But we have a lot of women who come back. Like I said, a lot of the women who have either been survivors and gotten care packages or just found out about us later come back as, volunteers who speak at events for us, who, become county captains, and which is kind of what we call our key volunteers in a community. And they're the kind of the face for the organization out in their own community.
So is that your job to?
So I have a really good team, and Brittany is our community outreach coordinator. So she does that end of it. Natalie's our communications director. So she's in charge of keeping them up to date with everything that's happening. We just hired Abby, who's helping with our social media to get our presence out there to, again, let women know we're doing stuff. You guys do a good job on social media. Yeah, but Natalie and Abby are just, and Brittany does a lot for the grassroots partners, they're fabulous on that type of stuff.
So we're coming up on our 10th anniversary of the Mid-Penn Bank Celebrity Golf Tournament, which you mentioned a little bit earlier. And Pennsylvania Breast Cancer Coalition was one of our partners from year one. We've had other partners from time to time, and for the last few years, it was the Bosser Center down at the University of Penn Medicine, Dr. Payal Shaw and Dr. Susan Domchek. This year, we're also going to, because now we're in New Jersey, and so we're doing some things over there. So we're going to give a little bit of money over to Cooper Health.
Awesome.
And, hopefully, do a little bit more with them as time goes on. So how exciting is that week for you guys? I mean, I know that you guys show up at a lot of the events, and I know, the last event is when we give you the big fake check and then follow it up with a real check in October. But
so we love that week. It is fun, not just from the golf tournament itself, but with the Project Pink, which is the day before, in which a lot of the wives and significant others of the celebrities come and help, and we make care packages for the newly diagnosed women. So they're there, to kind of, I think it was at one point called a day of caring. And I'm like, it is, but it's so much more than that, because it's really giving back, and they write these awesome notes. So for us, it's just a fun, it supports our mission, but it also, gives care packages to newly diagnosed women. For us, it's a fun way to, talk and network with people and just be there and to see all the, to learn from other people, because some of these women come from all across the country. So they're there and they're like, well, do you know that in Alabama we're doing this, or Arkansas we're doing this? And I'm like, that's awesome. And then we, to connect and to hear what other people are doing in communities is just amazing.
Are there organizations like Pennsylvania Breast Cancer Coalition in other states?
So it depends on what state. So Delaware has a very active organization. New Jersey, not as much, but so it just depends where they are. But a lot of them, if it's not a full-on organization, there's, groups that are doing, there might be a group that's just doing something for survivors, or doing something like one piece of it that is just kind of amazing to learn about.
So the Project Pink, I think, is the best part of our golf tournament. And unfortunately, we do it at the same time as the shootout, which takes, 4.5 hours of, actually probably a little bit more of my time that day. So while we're out there, having fun playing golf, you guys are putting all those packages together. And I think that from what my wife tells me, Jody, the camaraderie that you all have developed that day has been unbelievable.
It really is spectacular. Like I said, and Jody emceed it last year and did a spectacular job kind of keeping everybody on task and leading us through it and talking about why we were all there together doing it. And I think it's another way for the individuals who are there and the women to see like why it matters. It's not just a day of golf necessarily. Right. The golf's awesome.
We and I talked about that in that speech that I gave in 2018, that wearing pink is great, and it does help raise the level of awareness, but we all got to do a little bit more than that. And the golf tournament is such a labor of love for this company. And we've really enjoyed giving the donations to the Pennsylvania Breast Cancer Coalition each and every time, whether it was the first $25,000 that first year or whatever we gave in the biggest year. Pat and the rest of the organization, you guys were very appreciative of the money, and that means a lot to us. And we could see the way you're using it, which means an incredible amount to us. But that week is a lot of work. And I remember, like, at the pairings party, which is later on in the day that you guys do Project Pink in the morning when we're doing the shootout. And that's a really long day. Wednesday's a long day. Thursday's a long day too, but Wednesday's a really long day. And I remember someone coming up to me at the pairings party and saying, "You having a good time?" And I said, no, I don't have a good time. Like, this is work, but I'm glad you're having a good time.
Yeah.
But to see all that activity and the celebrities that come. No, we don't pay the celebrities. You know that. And we, help them with their logistics and getting there, of course, and we try to entertain them as best we can. But they really like your organization. They love Pat. And she,
what's not to love?
She always came to the pairings party in the first 5 or 6 years, and they all, I think all of them, they all fell in love with her, and they're all willing to sacrifice a lot of their time to do this because the Pennsylvania Breast Cancer Coalition is such a unique organization.
Thank you so much. And your team, I mean, I know it's a lot of work because we too put on events, and I know that it's just, that behind the scenes scrambling, and your team does it effortlessly because you never even know that any of it's happening, and they are just they do a fabulous job. And I know that Pat always laughs because she's I'm not a gala person, Jen. I'm not a party person. She likes content.
Right.
She loves her content. So, but for her, it was to be there and, to talk to, again, the celebrities who are coming in and given their own time and their effort, and to get the connection with them and to hear why they're there. And then I think her favorite year was the confetti canyon year when you guys set off confetti cannons and
scared everyone.
And scared everybody. And she was just thrilled. But I know I think for all of us, it's just the connections that we get to, to make with people, because everybody has a story.
And that, I missed those early days because it was a lot more intimate.
Yeah.
There weren't as many celebrities, there weren't as many teams, and there weren't as many people at the party, and it was a lot more intimate.
Right.
But, things grow and things get bigger, and they may not have the same intimacy, but it's still an amazing
and the impact though is still huge. The impact's huge. Incredible. The impact is huge.
So we've raised close to $1.5 million over the previous 9 years, and we have a really good golf tournament coming up this year. We have a lot of good celebrities coming, and I think we've added a couple more things here and there. We've got a professional auctioneer for the party this year, which I think is going to be really good. Group out in New York, and this is kind of what they do for a living. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. But it's going to be a lot of the same kind of formula. Just bring as many people here that love golf and love socializing and have a good time. And while we're doing it, just kind of remind everyone why we're here. So have you had an opportunity to go to the Champions Dinner?
I have not. No, I have not been there yet. Okay. Yeah, I definitely can.
And I think Dr. Shaw is going to be there this year.
Great. I love her.
And she's going to speak a little bit there because
wonderful.
Speaking at the pairings party is tough.
No.
There's so many people.
Yeah.
No one's paying attention.
It's a big room. It's hard to get the crowd paying attention.
Hard to get the crowd.
Yeah.
But in that Champions Dinner, it's a much more intimate setting, 100 or so people in the room. And everyone's paying attention.
Love that.
So you should come over this year.
Great. Yeah, that would be awesome.
So what's the future for Pennsylvania Breast Cancer Coalition?
Well, so like I said, we're reviewing grants right now for research grants. We're working on some brand new legislation that was just introduced a week and a half ago, called Senate Bill 88. It was introduced actually by Senator Frank Ferry. And then Senator Kim Ward was co-prime. Senator Ferry's wife, Kristen, is going through breast cancer treatment right now. So he's really passionate about it, and it will actually cover no-cost diagnostic exams. So mammograms, MRIs, ultrasounds, which has been, so that's been a huge gap and a huge need.
Nice.
So they're working on that. So it's working its way through the Senate. There's a champion for the same issues in the House, Representative Gina Curry. So we're really hoping that we can keep the bill moving forward.
And are they from the same side of the aisle, or?
So actually, no. So the House, well, we have, I think last I checked, we had 40 or 41 co-sponsors in the Senate. So it's pretty bipartisan there. But Senator Ferry and Senator Ward are Republicans. Representative Curry is a Democrat in the House side.
I thought that was the beautiful thing about what Senator Ward and Joanna did.
Yep.
Both two different chambers,
two
different sides of the aisle, and it was great.
And the First Lady has already said that she's willing to help with her support and talk to the governor. So we're hoping if we can get it through the two chambers, we can have to make some real progress for women.
We should invite the governor and his wife to the pairings party. We should.
Yeah.
They'd probably love it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big event in Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh.
And most of the people that are there are from Pennsylvania, although there's a lot of celebrities that come from all over.
But I mean, I think, what are you at, like almost 1,000 people there, right?
At the parents' party, probably about half.
Okay.
About 500.
Okay.
Which is a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a
lot of people in that room. Yeah.
And I think the governor would love it.
Yeah, I think he would too. We can see what we can do with that.
That'd be a good campaign stop for him.
It's a good.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
I think he's doing a great job so far.
Yeah, a lot of people to talk to. It's always nice.
And is there any way for other organizations to, we kind of, I don't want to say accidentally found our way to you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how we did? So
I don't know if I do.
So Dawn Spar, Dawn.
Yes.
She came to me in 2015 and she said that the March of Dimes was looking for me to be their chairman of the March for Babies.
Okay.
And I said, all right, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And she said, well, you got to raise like $50,000 for them. I'm like, how am I going to do that? She said, well, why don't we have a golf tournament?
Okay.
And you can invite Ron Jaworski and Bill Berge, Joe Pisarcik and Mike Quick to come, and we'll do like a one-day golf tournament.
Right.
And we raised $50,000.
Amazing.
So it was done.
Yeah.
It was going to be a one-time thing. And Dawn came to me a month or two afterward, and she said, I think we should do another golf outing next year. And I said, well, what are we going to do it for? Because I'm not going to do that again.
Right.
And she said, we should make it for breast cancer. Because we've had a couple of employees that.
Yeah.
And I said, great. So we started planning the golf outing, and then she found you guys.
Okay. Yeah. I knew Dawn was my first contact. And
Yeah.
she and I, had I think we had a long talk after that.
And look, we were never trying to do this for any type of competitive advantage or brand the bank or anything like that. So, how can other companies help? Because if you're relying on companies like us to give you contributions that you can then, fund research with or put together packages or sponsor legislation, like how do you get more companies help?
So I think it's just having them make that first start and having learn about us, which is why, it is nice to go other places and make the connection and talk to people. Because I do think once we talk to people, they realize that number one, we have passionate people working, with a small staff to really try to make a difference here in Pennsylvania. So once we kind of talk to people, and we luckily have, we had over 285 grassroots partners event last year. So those are individual people and businesses and, groups doing events for us, which is amazing because that, again, much like Dr. Schalt, that takes our time away. We don't have to be out there spending a lot of time fundraising and, doing that because the money, individuals are committed enough to do that for us, which is just amazing and astounds me every day that just happens. Because having worked, for other nonprofits now a long time ago, that was not happening at that point.
Right.
So I do think we're different in that, we are very grassroots and community organ. And that's why, when Dawn said, we're Mid-Penn Bank and we talked about it, and it's like, you guys are very community focused and so are we. So the connection, has always kind of been, it's like we have kind of very similar kind of ideals and
it was
focuses.
an easy one.
Yeah.
It was an easy one
match
for our two organizations because I think that there's a lot of similar DNA.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking there probably is with a lot of companies. And, we got to figure out a way to make those connections.
Yeah. I mean, I do know like Quandel just did a huge golf tournament, which was amazing.
I know.
First year out of the bat, they did, a huge tournament.
I know, it's great.
It's amazing. So, I mean, like I said, as we make connections and some of it is too, unfortunately, if a family or someone is touched with breast cancer and we help them, then that connection is inadvertently made. It's not really the connection I necessarily want to make.
No, but Jen, like if you came to that Champions Day, and I would say at the pairings party too, but it's tough to get 500 people to get 500 attention. But if you ask the roughly 100 or so people that are going to be in that room at the Champions Dinner, have you or someone in your direct family or in your extended family been impacted by breast cancer directly or indirectly? Everyone's hand would be up.
Yep. They're all hands are up.
I mean, it's just, unfortunately, it can impact anyone, anywhere, anytime, any age,
Yep.
And I talked about that in 2018. It doesn't discriminate. It
does
goes
not.
after everyone, male and female,
Yep.
black and white, and, every other color and every other,
It really does.
income group,
It
doesn't matter what.
Yeah.
Religious, not religious, whatever.
Well, and just your work alone. I mean, your speech there inspired another individual who came up to me later and said, I'm going to do what he did. And he had worked for Volkswagen at the time and was able, when our van caught on fire from the office, he called me up because we put it out on social media, and he called me up and said, "Don't you worry about it. I'm going to get Volkswagen to donate a VW for you." And he did that. And so, like, just from your remarks, that spurred others to think, well, I could do that. I can do something. It might not be that exact thing, but I can do something. And I think some of that makes such a huge difference.
Well, hopefully some people will be watching this and, and listening to it and finding out that, number one, breast cancer does impact so many people in Pennsylvania or, anywhere in the country or really anywhere in the world. And what we really need to do is we need to put some money behind this.
Yeah.
Because we got to keep funding that research. I know that they're a lot closer today than they were, but they're not there yet.
They're not there yet.
And if you catch it early, it's good, but it's not perfect. I mean, we still need, they got to figure out this whole BRCA gene mutation. They got to figure out a lot of different, ways to treat and to most importantly, ways to prevent.
Yep.
So there's a lot of work to be done.
There's a lot of work. I always say when I first started, breast cancer was more talked about as, breast cancer. It's one disease. And now in just the past 20, 25 years, they've, it's different types. There's multiple types of breast cancer and they're all treated differently. So the leaps and bounds we've made just on the treatment in 20 years is huge. And I keep thinking, where will we be in 5, 10, 15 more if we keep dedicating the effort to research? And there's people that are, brilliant minds working on this.
Like Dr. Shaw.
And, Susan Domchek and her team there at Vassar. So, I mean, it's really, but we have to continue with it because, the goal of our organization is to find a cure now so our daughters don't have to.
Exactly. And hopefully the state and federal government is there for organizations like Pennsylvania Breast Cancer Coalition with funding, but you need more than that. And that's where the private partnerships come into play. And, it's been a real honor for Mid-Penn Bank to do what it's done. And we're just under $800,000, I think, with you guys. I made a commitment to you a couple of years ago that, we weren't going to stop until they got to $1 million. And then, it's not going to stop at that point.
We so appreciate that.
But we're going to be at $1 million within a couple of years, a year or two, maybe by next year. And then we'll figure out, the next level of commitment. But, if there are companies out there listening and you want to get involved with a great organization that supports, people with breast cancer all across this state and beyond, you couldn't find a better place than the Pennsylvania Breast Cancer Coalition. It's a world-class organization. I am, in full disclosure, I am on the board.
Yes.
And I don't like joining boards. It's not, what I do because I'm so busy. But this organization has really proven itself to me to be worthy of not just, the amount of time that we put into the golf tournament and therefore the contribution it makes, but my own time and some of my employees' time and my friends and family time. It is a phenomenal organization. I couldn't encourage you more to research it, get involved. I know that everyone that's listening to this, I know that you had someone in your life impacted by breast cancer, and hopefully they were able to make it through it. And because of the work that a lot of researchers have done, and because of the work that organizations like Pennsylvania Breast Cancer Coalition have done. So, find a way to give Jen a call.
Absolutely. Fine. Yep.
Get on the Pennsylvania Breast Cancer Coalition website, follow them on social media, give Jen a call. She'll get together with you and explain how you can help. It's something that will fulfill you in a lot of different ways, because it's just a great organization. So
thank you so much. And like I said, we've just been so blessed and, thrilled with the partnership. We really could not ask for better partners. And
it was fate.
Getting our message. It was
fate that Dawn talked us into it all those years ago. And now she couldn't talk me out of it. So,
well, I love that.
And I keep, saying, well, we're going to give you $1 million. We're going to give you. And she's like, stop promising people that. But thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me and helping us share our message.
Give my best to Pat.
I will.
Tell her I will hope to see her, sometime during the week.
Yep.
Whether it's at Project Pink or at the pairings party,
okay.
We can talk her into
see
coming.
What we can do. Yeah.
Or we'll get her in, get her out. Stay all night. And then, of course, I'll be, with you. I'm sure on October 1st-ish.
October 7th. October. It's we're the first Tuesday.
Okay.
First Tuesday. 6th or 7th.
That's the day before my birthday.
Is it? Well, then we can celebrate.
Yeah.
We can celebrate for the Pink Fountain.
I always love the Pink Fountain Day.
Yeah.
Although we've had some bad weather past few years, but
I know we had rain.
But doing it inside that's also nice. But
it's okay. It's not as great. It's a little anticlimactic.
No. Yeah.
I mean, it's not nearly as exciting as the year the whole fountain got somebody put soap in it and turned to bubbles. But we can't have all exciting years, so it'll be good.
That was only like 2 years ago, right?
Oh, I don't know. They all blend together. It was a few.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so they can't all be exciting years like that. So.
What kind of people do we have around here, Scott, doing something like that?
I have no idea.
It was like a pink bubble bath.
It was very amusing.
So thank you, Jen.
Thank you so much.
And I'll see you the week of the golf tournament, which is 30 days.
I know. It's coming up. I know.
And Scott, what do we have coming up? Who do we have coming up next?
One of our board members, Joel Frank.
Joel Frank, who we're going to find out how he gets to be super lawyer.
I know.
I think he's a super lawyer almost every year. And, he kind of acts like a Superman. So, it'd be good to have him come in and tell his story. I agree. But Jen, thank you again.
Thank you.
And everyone, have a great day. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Mid-Penn Bank Podcast. You can find more episodes at Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon, and more. Do you have a question about the podcast? Email us at podcast@midpennbank.com. References in this podcast to Mid-Penn are to Mid-Penn Bancorp, Inc. and its subsidiaries and affiliates. This podcast expresses the views of its participants and may not represent the views of Mid-Penn or its officers and employees. In addition, these views are subject to change without notice, and Mid-Penn has no duty or obligation to update the information contained in this podcast. This podcast is being made available for informational purposes only and should not be used for any other purpose. The content in this podcast does not constitute an offer, solicitation, recommendation, or advice, whether legal, tax, accounting, financial, or otherwise. You are encouraged to consult with competent legal, tax, accounting, or investment professionals before engaging in any financial transaction. Mid-Penn does not make any warranties as to the accuracy or completeness of the information in this podcast, does not endorse any third-party companies, products, or services, and assumes no liability for your use of this information. Forward-looking statements should not be considered guarantees or predictions of future events. This podcast is sole property of Mid-Penn and may not be copied, reproduced, republished, or posted in whole or in part in any form without the prior written consent of Mid-Penn.